Welcome to the F Word.
Let's go!
AK Finance, where we talk about real topics, real discussions, and best of all, we are real people. Teaching you how to make money to survive in the world we live today by learning financial literacy. This is the F Word.
It still got more potential. It could keep going. It could keep going.
You do like options trading?
Nah, trade. That's pretty much trading this contract of the stock. I'm starting that. I'm gonna take a risk and take $1,000 risk and just play with it. You're talking about puts, calls, straddles. Pretty much, as you know, when you have stocks, you have stocks, which is you're buying the stock itself, the equity itself. But then you could buy the contract of the stock, and it's way cheaper. So let's say instead of buying Tesla at a crazy number right now, $574 a share, you could buy the option maybe at $2, $4. But you gotta buy a minimum 100. And it has expiration dates. It's like legal gambling in a way. If it hits a certain price, every dollar it goes past that price, you get to, of course, enjoy. But if it doesn't hit that price by that date, based on the contract you picked, yeah, exactly. So it has its pros and cons. For a lot of people that's online, that's watching what's going on, today I'm going to be teaching commercial real estate. I'm going to be teaching you how to purchase a commercial piece of land, giving you a brief intro on how commercial real estate works. Because a lot of us want to learn the world of investing. We want to learn where else can we put our money than just leaving it in the bank. The bank gives you about roughly 1% or even less. My goal today is just to teach you a different way of investing your money pertaining to the world that we live in. First and foremost, next month I'm doing a show, February 23rd, 1 to 3 p.m. You can come live, you can watch it live, or you can actually come physically in the building. I'm going to be teaching you how to restructure debt. A lot of us are in debt right now. They say almost $14 trillion worth of debt is U.S. based on Americans. $8,000 worth of debt is on credit cards. Personally, people have a total debt of $40,000 worth of debt. And my goal is to really teach you guys how to get out of debt. So February 23rd, you can sign up to mentorme.com. You can, of course, subscribe. It's only $49. This is a monthly show that I'm doing every last Sunday of the month. I'm teaching you something new. We are in a world that we are surrounded with a lot of debt. I will be teaching you how to get yourself out of debt February 23rd, 1 to 3 p.m. If you know you have a problem savings, you have a lot of debt, you're trying to figure out what's some options in life, how could you restructure your finances, feel free to come out to the show next month teaching you how to get out of debt. We're going to first talk about different asset classes when we talk about commercial real estate, okay? Because there's different types of commercial real estate. And the first one, as we know, multifamily. This is more apartment complexes. Again, 10 units, 20 units, 30 units. We all know what an apartment complex is, 2 ones, 2 twos, sometimes 3 twos. This is what we call multifamily. Then we talk about industrial. Industrial more is where manufacturing companies go. Now even dealerships go there, and this is what we call industrial flex space, meaning it's an industrial warehouse with an office. That's all it is, industrial warehouse with an office. This is called flex space, okay? Then we all know retail. We see this a lot where you have Chipotle, you have different companies, Jamba Juice, Smoothie King, all these companies in one plaza, retail, okay? This is a good example of one. You got Firehouse Sub, Chipotle, Radio Shack, Games Plus. This is a retail plaza. Again, understanding the types of commercial asset classes is very important because every commercial asset class has a different expense ratio, meaning every dollar you make, there's a different percentage on how much you keep, okay? So it might be a 60-40 for industrial, meaning every dollar you make in industrial, 60% goes towards expenses, 40% goes in your pocket. This is very important understanding based on wherever you want to invest your money, where you want to be, okay? Then we have retail office, okay, where you have retail on the bottom, office at the top. This is actually becoming commonly known because a lot of new developers are developing a lot of buildings like this now, and you're starting to see this in different areas. Coral Springs, if you guys are down here, you're starting to see it in developing cities that they're starting to do a lot of retail office, okay? You're doing mixes in one building. And which is good because you guaranteed tenants on the top, or usually tenants on the top, and you have retail shops on the bottom, so they're guaranteed consumers. And if you know if that's happening, eventually somewhere else they're going to build multifamily very close. You already know if there's a piece of land, what would be best to build. multifamily, because you know they can of course shop at the stores that's on the bottom, which makes sense. So this also gives you an idea, if you're investing, where should you want to buy land? If you see this coming up here, this gives you a great idea. Now, I'll just give you guys a little brief. I'm actually a realtor / investor. Commercial is something that a lot of people don't realize it is different. It's a different type of selling, down to the verbiage is very different. This is very important. This is like a non-compete, non-disclosure agreement. A CA is pretty much a confidential agreement that pretty much gives you a contract between you and that seller or you and that buyer that gives you the ability to be, of course, the only one binding to this particular property. Because in the world of residential, which is so different, you could tell a person, hey, you know what, this house is for sale. You wouldn't care if you're a listing agent. Why? Because I have a listing agreement. They can't let anybody else list that. With commercial, it's a little different. What about if I told you, okay, that this property, this guy is thinking about selling this property. I'm charging a commission, I'm saying 2%. I want 2 points. You're a commercial realtor too. You go behind my back and go do this. I'll sell your same property for 1 point. What stops you, okay, what stops this guy from not letting you, okay, take this deal from me? This document right here. I could sue him. I could sue the seller now. In commercial, there is a lot of litigation. I'm telling you that. You're not just going to run around doing what you want to do. That's why it's not always good to tell a person in commercial what properties you have or are you exclusively entitled to at this moment based on the seller or the buyer, whatever the case may be. Very different from residential. Remember, residential, on the buyer side, a realtor can bring any buyer to buy a property. Very different. Okay? So in commercial, sometimes you'll see a photo online. Not everybody does this, but a lot of people do. And you'll see an address, and you look up the address, you go reverse engineer it, and go on Zillow, you look up that, you're like, hold on, that's not the same building. Because they don't want you to know the real address. They give you a similar location. They'll give you a location that's close to the address, but they don't want you to know exactly the address.
It's not address.
Especially if this hasn't been signed on either side.
Exactly.
We need the seller or the buyer, we need somebody to sign this to make sure that if we do give you, by theory, the buyer's agent, the address and all the information, it's 100% clear that you're not gonna go behind my back in any way to, of course, talk to my seller, because you have signed this and I can sue you. You see the importance of that? Because we think that in the world of commercial, of course, it's all about building relationships. We all get that part. But it's important that you gotta understand, you gotta CYA, you gotta cover yourself, because people can take food from you. And you gotta understand, we're in a world where everything is being sent legally through, of course, email. That's why we email a lot. Even down to commission. I'm gonna tell you something. Imagine he's selling a building. He promised me, let's say, 2 points. I tell him this is what the building costs. There's also a 2-point commission cost in order for me to help you sell this property. Through email, he says, well, that's not a problem at all. Okay, cool. So that legal document puts him in a position he's legally binding. Compared to residential, I have to get an as-is contract. Both parties have to sign. We go from offer to, of course, being on contract when both parties sign, seller and buyer. This is very different. If this deal goes through based on what was in that email, property address,
Binding.
Everything is fully binded through that email. That's a legal document. You can actually sue the seller if he sold that property. And he closed it by theory without paying you your commission. That's why it's good to, in this world here, having a commercial lawyer is very valuable. Okay? Now, we talk about how do you finance a commercial property? Now, of course, by theory, it would make sense, of course, to buy a property cash. But let's be honest, we're talking commercial. $2 million properties, 10, 30, 75 million, $155 million projects, okay? You are not just going to buy the property cash. Not everybody has that type of money. I definitely don't, let me tell you that, okay? This is the reality. So what will we do? And I'm gonna tell you how you finance a property makes a difference to who can buy a certain type of property. This is a big factor in commercial real estate, okay? Because example, A commercial lending rate could be, let's say, 5.25. A person that's financing, meaning if I have to go to a bank, a commercial lender, and get a loan, I know the lending rate that I'm paying is 5.25. So think about this for a moment. If the project itself as a whole is only giving me 6%, I cannot take that deal down. A financed person cannot take that particular deal down. Now let's change the scenario. The project as a whole is giving 6% or 5%. But the person is the cash buyer. There is no interest rate. It's their liquid dollars buying this property. They can take it down. It makes sense to them. You're making 5% of your money compared to other banks. You're making 5% guaranteed. You're also making 5% compared to a risky asset such as stocks and other type of investments. A 5% project would make sense to a person who doesn't want something that's aggressive. And I'm gonna give you guys more education, okay, right? Listen to this one. The lower the cap rate simply means the interest that the project is making for you. The lower the cap rate, the easier it is for you to get your money. Example, in the world of commercial, right? When you have in your plaza what we call triple net leases, these are people or companies that are publicly traded, triple net leases. These are people or companies that are publicly traded, in other words, like Chipotle, Radio Shack, you know, they're going out of it. Yes. Okay? These companies are binded to paying you. Let's say you have a 20-year lease. Hypothetically, year 14, Chipotle decides they don't want to be here anymore. You got a 20-year lease. Even though they're gone, they still have to pay for the remaining 5 years. Even though they're gone, they're legally binded. And whatever, and this was crazy. On a triple net lease, they pay every expense. Every expense is paid out of their pocket. AC goes out, they cannot call you. It has nothing to do with you. Something broke, that has nothing to do with you. Triple net lease tenants are one of the best because it's like saying Section 8 on the residential side. The money's guaranteed with no headache. Triple net leases. Now, buying a cash property is by theory what a lot of us would love to do, but that doesn't make sense. Majority of people that buy a commercial, they leverage into commercial. Okay, it's not like residential where you got a townhouse for $50,000 and you buying that cash. It don't work like that. Majority of people leverage. Usually when you go to a lender, they're going to give you the commercial lending rate. Let's say hypothetically, it's 5%. It's not like residential, again, people 3.75. That's FHA. Okay, it's higher, 5.25, 5.75, 5.5. Okay? They're also going to tell you in order for us to give you this loan, this property that you're about to buy needs to be positively cash flowing. Meaning, if the debt was $10,000 and they want to positive cash flow by 1 plus a quarter, so if the debt that they're about to give you, your mortgage, in other words, is going to be $10,000. That project needs to at least be making $12,500 for them to give you whatever that money is that you want. They want 1 plus a quarter of what they're giving you per month. So if it's $10,000, it has to be netting you $12,500 per month passively for them to, of course, give you that loan. Now, it's important to understand, if a person has a $5 million project, a person saying they're selling a building for $5 million, we're going to go through a couple examples. How do you know it's really worth $5 million? Compared to residential, it's very different. Residential, what? You can just go on the MLS or maybe Zillow a little bit, play with a couple numbers. Okay, but it's very different. We're in a building right now. There's no building in this area that's the same. How do we know this building would be worth $15 million? What is the comps we go by? There's no comparables. There's nothing to compare. That's a school across the street. That's a retail plaza, not even the same size. And over there is a gas station across the street. How do we know this building is worth $15 million? You see the problem?
Could be zoning. Anything to do with zoning?
No.
Okay.
Zoning just lets you put this building in a particular area based on what type of building it is. Right, zoning.
The amount of income that it generates.
Very true. That's the main focus. If a person saying their building is worth $10 million, we need to know, of course, well, first of all, how much money is this building generating? And if you, of course, communicate with the owner of the building, he has to, of course, give you what we call rent rolls. I need to know how much is people paying for rent. And you're not only gonna give me that, sometimes I also need to see the financials of this building. What are all the fixed costs and variable costs that's being implemented to run this building? And sometimes we even gotta go further. I want your 2 years tax returns, and I want your 24 months bank statements. Just to source back to the numbers you gave me on these financials. You didn't just type up some numbers. I need to make sure these numbers add up to what you're saying you're making per month net. Then eventually we come up with what we call a cap rate when we finish getting all that information. I'm gonna be doing a show next month for people that want to go a little bit more in depth, where we'll go into breaking down numbers and understanding how you really evaluate a building. This course is going to be a little bit more pertaining to the investment side. It's going to be maybe a $1,000 show per person. Because again, it's understanding the in-depth component of commercial. Because a lot of us think that when we're buying commercial, all you're going to do is simply this. You're just going to find a property that somebody told you that it's worth $5 million, you're just going to buy. How do you know it's worth $5 million? How do you know what cap rate is it? Somebody put on there what we call offering memorandum. I have an example of one, which is a pamphlet that they should be giving you that shows you the population growth, the rent roll, the fixed costs, which is like the expense spreadsheets. You need to have that offering memorandum, but that don't mean it's exact. Because maybe you gotta realize it's a commercial. It's kind of funny. It's like your word versus mine. I'm gonna do my due diligence and look at the same information. I might come up with a whole different cap rate. Who's right? Who's wrong? Now it comes to experience. Now it comes to education. Now it comes to also who can fight their side better to validate that this is worth what we say it's worth, and this is why we say it's worth. Sometimes the commercial realtor probably sold a building 10 blocks away. So now he already knows the expense ratios on buildings like this, because he have closed the deal similar to this type of building. You understand? Compared to this person who has never closed a deal, who knows nothing about commercial or retail. They're just making up numbers to put something together. And then you also got to realize, wow, 3 years they haven't sold. I wonder why. Maybe you're asking too much. Your numbers are wrong. And a person that knows their numbers, that have their commercial realtor by their side, they know this is not what this should be selling. And we have a client that bought a building, a multi-family building for, let's say $8 million when it was really worth $5 million. Big mistake, okay? Now, we talk about private money. Now, some people may say cash and private money is the same thing. It depends. Private money could be more of syndicating. Cash is more of Bobby has his own cash, okay? Private money is more I'm syndicating funds. I'm raising capital to come together with a group of people to take down a particular project, okay? Highly recommend get some real estate attorney's advice before you syndicate funds. And people that do know me know that I'm actually syndicating funds this year, starting by June. My lawyer documents are almost ready, and we're trying to, of course, attach it to a certain project. And once we do, I will have an introductory meeting at a hotel, most likely probably Marriott or Fontainebleau, Miami, and we're gonna, give an introduction to what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise $1 to $3 million. That's the goal. Any questions? Any questions so far? No, you good? Okay, cool. Cap rate. In this example here, we're going to talk about, like I said, the rate you're getting on your project. It's just like when you're doing residential, we call it a return on investment, ROI. It's the same concept, okay? The only difference is we're talking about a bigger project, okay? So hypothetically, a project is netting, let's say, netting you $10,000 a month times 12, that's $120,000. You divide that by purchase cost, which is initial investment or acquisition cost. You get what we call a 20%. Of course, cap rate was going to, okay? So if the current interest rate is 5%, the cap rate is giving you 20%, you're netting pretty much 15%, okay? So that's pretty much, again, you're just trying to see what's your return on investment. Now here it goes again. Remember, the higher the interest rate, the more your project is in an urban area, the more you're going to be fighting for your money. Where would you get an interest rate at 15, 16, 20% on a project? You're going to be more in urban developments fighting for your money. This is very important. So if you hear a person that got a project making a 6% cap rate, most likely they may have triple net tenants, You're gonna have your money guaranteed every month. But if I'm a young dude and I want long-term growth, I'm willing to fight for my money a little bit. I want to make the most cap rate I can. I want the interest rate to be more aggressive, maybe 10%, 11%, 9%, 13%. But you got to know wherever that project is about to be, there's a high chance you may have tenants that don't have good credit. You may have tenants that like to not pay you for 2 months. Because remember, the higher the cap rate, the more aggressive the area is that the project is in. Very important.
This might be for another session, but how does that play into like the opportunity zone, like identifying, where they're sending money for these different investors that come?
Oh, for opportunity zone, that's the best thing ever. If I'm in an area that wants to be gentrified, that's an opportunity zone by theory. Why not? I want to get the highest interest rate. That's a great thing. You want high cap rates, but you got to realize you're going to fight for your cap rates. You're not going to get. I'll put it like this: one of my investment properties, to find people with a 640 score was difficult. I was asking for too much. I gave up on that. I'm down to 620 now for a person to be in my house. I mean, it's not easy to have people have income. Usually, is not the issue, but credit score wise. Imagine saying you want in a certain neighborhood, I want a 700 credit score. I want every person to make minimum $55,000. Yes, having that going on will put you in a position where you're collecting your rent at a smoother pace, okay, without a fight. But how easy is it to have people with a 700 credit score, everybody making $50,000 or more? It's not easy. Some people, the minute they see that, they do not want to live in your apartment complex. They can't. And some of them, once they see that, they can't afford to live in your apartment complex. So you have to know, if you ever want to own an apartment complex, if you want those qualifications to be in that apartment complex, you're losing certain target markets. But some people may not want it. Some people know, I don't want those type of people in my area. Hey, whatever those type of people are, it's up to you. If you own that building, it's up to you. Because I'm gonna tell you guys this: you can have a project giving you a 14% or 15% cap rate, but the minute you put better tenants, okay, the cap rate changes again. I mean, let's say hypothetically, the project had 9% cap rate. Now you put better tenants. You now made your building go to a whole different evaluation, especially if you build the building up to par. Because sometimes the building needs new paint. Sometimes certain things need to be remodeled. So the tenants and the type of rent you're carrying, and sometimes putting better tenants gives you better rent. If I'm having people in my building, let's say 2-1, they're paying $1,400, and I'm able to get those. Let's say they keep the tenants that's in that building. They're continuously late. Okay, well, let's get some of them out. Let's get people that can afford $1,700 with higher incomes. That building I just bought for $5 billion is now worth maybe now $7.6 million. I can sell that building in 2 years just by changing tenants. Okay? Any question on cap rates? You guys pretty clear on that? Pretty much the interest rate of a project. Question? Oh, you good? Okay. 1031 exchange. It's important to understand you own a project, you held it for 5 to 8 years. Then you felt, you know what? It's time to sell. You made $3 million. But you realize if I touch this $3 million, I'm gonna pay taxes on this $3 million. Our world has something special called a 1031 exchange. It's like a third-party escrow company. Think of it like that in a weird way. Where that company can hold your $3 million, okay? You have 45 days to find a similar property, up to 3. 45 days to find a similar property that you must close in those 180 days. And as long as that money is going into that transition property, you do not pay tax because the money never touched your hand. Many people do 1031 exchanges. They use this a lot because they do not want to pay taxes. So their money is going in one property to another that probably is giving them a better cash flow with less risk. Or sometimes it could be the fact that maybe the loan they had a balloon payment in 5 years. They want to sell because they know in 5 years they have that balloon payment, even though it was amortized over, let's say, 25 years. They know that they got that balloon payment. They need out. They already made a profit. They're like, look, I made 4 years of income. 5th year, I'm already up $1 million. I need out. I want to get that $1 million out of this property. They could have this. Somebody else could buy this and enjoy this. Any questions on a 1031 exchange. Pretty clear, right? This is very important. This took time to understand. We're used to banking. You know, one of the questions is like, how do you get a loan to buy a building? Many of us would think naturally you would just go to a Bank of America, a Wells Fargo, a Chase, and they're going to give you a $7 million loan. That's not going to happen. That will never happen. Okay? Those are called money center banks. Money center banks want you to do this. We want to take your money at 0%. Okay? We want to give people residential loans at 4 to 7% and put them in debt for 30 years. That's what money center banks do. Wells Fargo, Chase, all these type of regular banks, Chase, and all these other banks, TD Bank and all that good stuff. Come to banks like Co-America, PNC. These are more what we call regional banks. Okay, regional banks is sometimes we also want small banks, Florida Community Bank, A and B. A lot of small banks, meaning small banks. There's only one in the county. You probably see these banks, you're like, why do these banks exist? There's only one, maybe two. Here's the difference. You're not just a number anymore. I had to learn that. You're not just a number. When you're closing commercial real estate deals, you will never see a deal close, usually with Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, Money Center Banks, ever. It's the small banks you've never heard of is what's closing these deals. Why? The owner is right there in that office. It's his money. It's his decisions. He can close this deal. We have been to a point, the world has brainwashed us and made us believe that when you go in these lovely money center banks, hey, welcome to Bank of America, would you like to open up a free checking? We think by theory, okay, this is how we're going to become multi-millionaires, putting our hard-working dollars in a bank that gives us less than 1%. Simple interest, not even compounded. Simple meaning you're going to get that 1% once a year, and they're going to send you a dividend statement at the end of the year saying they want you to pay tax on the $40 or $10 they gave you. Compared to understanding that when you're saving, this is why I talk about a lot of my videos, when you're saving, it's important to understand saving is not just saving in a personal bank account. Saving is also saving with commercial banks. Very important. Small commercial banks. These are banks that the owner is in the building. When there's a problem with your account, the rep calls you directly. Okay? You need to make a transfer, I can call my rep, hey, I need to make a quick transfer. Transfer $10,000 for me real quick. Okay, yeah, it's transferred, Bobby. Appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks, Jeff. It's transferred. Very different.
And you got a relationship with the bank.
You have a full relationship with them. It's very different. Everything is done in-house. There's no, oh, I'm going to type a couple information in, and we're going to send it to our underwriting department, and we'll get back to you, and you'll get a letter in 7 to 10 days. No. That's the under department right here. When you're ready, just walk in the door. That's the under department right there. Very different.
Another way to identify who some of these banks are is when you go to these different developments, they'll have, project funded by.
Exactly. That's a great way too. A lot of people don't realize that. You go to different developments and you can see project funded by. That's a great way to look at it too. I never looked at it like that. A great way to look at it. Any questions on understanding the difference between a money center bank, okay, and commercial banks? There's regional levels, and there's also like small family levels, which is small family banks, okay? Because they make majority of their money by lending to small people like us, $5 million, $10 million, $15 million. That's how they make majority of their money, okay? Now, loan to value is pretty much your loan to value. You're buying a house, FHA. Your loan to value is residential side 3.5, and what is it's a 96.5 loan to value. You're buying conventional by theory. What is that? 80-20. You put 20% down. The bank finances you the other 80. That's just loan to value. What is the value of the loan based on, of course, the loan that you're getting? This is very different to a certain degree. Now, your LTV on a normal project is 20%. Usually, if you go to a lender, commercial, they're going to tell you they want you to put by theory 20% usually. So if the building costs $1 million, you have to come up with $200,000 plus closing costs plus rehab costs. Okay? And remember, the debt has to be, of course, serviced by 1 plus a quarter. Always remember that. Is the project producing net 1 plus a quarter? Now, some lenders give you this. They'll do an 85-15 LTV if you have a business by theory that's going to go inside that business that you're managing yourself as the owner of the building. you get to put a little bit less down because they feel, I guess, more secure knowing that, okay, you have your own business running and you're also a landlord at the same time. Because there's a good chance that, of course, if you have a profitable business, you're most likely going to be able to pay the debt service every month, and the building will be properly managed so it can stay afloat longer, okay? So in that case, if the project was $1 million property, of course, you put $150,000 down. Then you'll finance $750,000. And of course, things to think about if you're going to be buying a building. Now, let's think about it for a moment. Why a building? Why not just have 15 houses? It's not bad to have 15 houses. I want you guys to understand that they're all positively cash flowing. But here's one difference. You're collecting rent in one location. You don't have to move. All 15 to 30 people, 70 people paying rent every single month. You may need one manager that makes sure all the rent is being paid. Imagine going to your mailbox every first of the month and you have $55,000 worth of checks every first of the month coming in. Or a P.O. box. Or going to your management office who manages the property for you. And I say this because for some people I've heard, I got a couple of DMs before I did this show. Bobby, I want to invest into Detroit. I want to invest into Maryland. I want to invest into Pennsylvania. I want to invest into this state here. I want to invest into this state here. Here's the problem, okay? Before you think about investing into another state, you also need to take time to think about, okay, how much expenses you will have first flying, how much control you will have. Is that door locked or no?
No.
Terrence, is that door locked? Leave that, have that door, okay, right.
What's up, boy? You good?
Yeah, so we go into a different mindset to understand this, okay? You got to realize this. I would rather have a building that's stationary closer to me that I could drive to than to go to another state, have to pay maybe hotel costs, property management fees, right? Because you're not there, in order to maintenance this building. Now, is it a bad thing to invest out of state? No, it's not. Because I'm going to tell you something. Right now, an average door is going for multifamily 2-1, roughly about $100,000 a door. Okay? So if you have 10 doors, that's $1 million you're spending for 10 doors. Compared to Detroit, when I went there 2 years ago, a door was like $3,500 a door. But there's a difference. There's a big difference. I had to learn Detroit. Had to develop. I had to learn where people are moving to. You can't just go buy any building, because there's a lot of buildings for $20,000 in Detroit. $30,000, $50,000. 20 doors. There's buildings for $5,000 with 20 doors. But then you got to also look at rehab costs. These buildings are in shambles. Or you could maybe buy a building for $300,000, the same 10 doors, but it's 40% vacant. I'd rather take a chance at that. Why? Because that lets me know a lot. People live in that building. People living in the area. I just need to understand, why is it vacant? Maybe that could, of course, be fixed if I could become a better owner. And here's the beautiful thing. If you guys ever think about investing out of a state, if you, instead of having 15 homes, imagine making one of the units your unit, and when you're not there, you Airbnb it. So now there you cut hotel costs. And if you have a vehicle, you bought a little vehicle cash, you know me, I'm gonna buy the cheapest car they got, a little pickup truck, and just $3,000, and that's when I'm there, that's what I'm riding. But now I just cut down costs drastically. Because why? Going to, of course, Detroit flight is real cheap. I think $100, $80 or something like that. It's real cheap to go to Detroit. Any questions on why is it important to understand your loan to value and the different types of loan to value? Now, what's the problem? For many of us, we're fighting to get the down deposit. How many of us can say that we have $500,000 just sitting ready to invest in a commercial building? Because if the building hypothetically costs $5 million, think about that, people. Think about that, people. Times 20. Do you realize how much you need? Very simple math.
You need $1 million. Oh, yeah.
Who in here has $1 million down? And we're not done yet. That's $1 million just to put down for the bank to see you. You're not done yet. You still need closing costs. That might be another 100. You're not done yet. What about if the building needs rehab? You might need another 300 to rehab the building. To paint a building sometimes it can be 50 to 75,000. Easy. Easy. Just to paint the building. Imagine all AC units is no good. 50% of them no good. How do you know? They could be working right now when you did your inspection. What happens 6 months later, the ACs are not working. So, this is why I'm trying to build something where we could come together to have everybody invest together so we can raise the capital. To make sure everybody has some type of course, some type of value with their money that they invested instead of leaving it at the bank. I'm trying to have people come together with me and we invest on one project together. That's why I'm trying to come together and start giving you guys this type of education so you have an understanding on how does commercial work, so one day we can invest into commercial together, okay? When I talk about language, I'm gonna give a brief here. And for a lot of you that's watching live, it's important to understand you have the opportunity to Kindle. I have a lot of ebooks. I'm releasing my commercial real estate ebook tomorrow. It's only $14.89. I also have a money management ebook. Shouts out to everybody that invested into the ebook that's having problems managing their money. That's $14.99 also. I also have a couple free ebooks online teaching you how to start your own business, entrepreneurship, things you need to know about entrepreneurship. If you're going to start your own business, those are free ebooks, okay, on Kindle, which is Amazon, people. Now we're going to talk about, take a picture if you want, feel free. Okay. All right, cool. See if I have any online questions. Okay, we got that. Okay, good. All right, now, in commercial, you sold the property. You're not going to say, how much did that property sell for? You're going to say, what was the trade price for that property? What is it trading at? The same way we say in the stocks. What's the trade price? What did it trade at? In residential, some people say, what's the ARV? After repair value, right? When we want to find out who is in control, and when we call a business, we're trying to find out who do we need to talk to find out who's in charge of selling a particular property. We call the disposition department. This is who disposes the property. So you can imagine if we need to find out who owns, who's in charge of buying property, we need to talk to the acquisition department. Okay? Now in residential, we have selling price, asking price, right? Very different wording. Now, we also have, remember, we have a CA, confidential agreement. We don't have a CA in residential. You just have, of course, as-is contract, right? And exclusive listing if you're a listing agent. And that's just that. Now, offering memorandum is, we spoke about that earlier. In order to sell a project, what documents do you have that validates, based on what you say the valuation is, to validate that particular asset? If you feel it's worth $5 million, how did you come up with that number? How, in other words, that's what that packet is showing you. What makes you feel this building is worth $5 or $10 million? I did a little checklist to kind of give people something to go over when it pertains to commercial. Always ask yourself a question: do you have the 20% down? Is the project positively cash flowing based on the debt service? What is the cap rate of the project compared to the current lending rate? Very important. Remember, I told you why. If the lending rate is 5%, 5.25, and the project's only giving you 7%, is that 1.75 worth it? I wouldn't take a project like that. Not being so young, it makes no sense. How are you going to finance this project? Makes a difference on the project, 100%. A person that had $10 million sitting in the project worth $2 million, giving him 6% on his money, he could take it down. It's worth it for him. A person like me going to the bank getting a 5% interest rate or 5.25 interest rate, the project giving me 6%, I'm going to make it 0.75%. That project's not worth it to me. Okay? That's why it's always important to understand how you finance a project. Just like I was telling him earlier, I got a residential project I'm looking at. This project could be bought cash and still be sold and made profitable, or it can be financed and still be made profitable. Even if you want to hold it or you want to rehab it and sell it. This is one of those projects that any way you take it, there's money in this project. You're guaranteed minimum at least $31,000, $25,000. What are your long-term goals with this particular property? I always like to tell people to ask yourself these questions. What are your long-term goals? Are you buying this property just to collect passive income for years to come, maybe 10 years? Or are you just, of course, going to buy the property at a discount? You bought a property, let's say by theory, $60,000 a door. You already know this property. You're gonna put some money in and get it, put better tenants and get it up to $100,000 a door. Okay. What are your long-term goals based on what you're buying this property for? And did you of course get the offering memorandum? That's always very important before we move forward.
Good.
Okay. We're gonna do two examples, very important examples, to have a better understanding, a better visual. I'm not sure if you guys can see from that distance. I'm gonna try my best to have you guys see. We're gonna do two examples, okay? So you guys can understand how this thing works. And of course, you can just have your calculator open just in case I need it. Hypothetically, we have a 48-door apartment complex. The layout is a 2-1 layout all across the 48 doors. It's a 2-1 layout. The trade price is $9 million. So we all know the trade price means pretty much the acquisition cost. To buy this building, it costs $9 million. Okay? So let's go to trade price. We're going to write this down. $9 million. The layout, right, is a 2-1 every door. What would be our down deposit based on what Bobby spoke about today? To finance this project, what would be our down deposit?
Is it owner owned or is it owner occupied?
Let's say owner owned, yeah. Owner owned.
You need 20%.
Do it 20%. So that would be 1.8 million.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? 1.8 million. Sorry about my terrible handwriting, but you guys get it right.
Yeah.
Now here's where it gets funny. Hypothetically, this project is in Core Springs. I'm just making an example. I know that I just hypothetically we know that you could buy a 2-1 building condo anywhere for $100,000, okay? Okay, $100,000. That's pretty much the going rate right now for a condo if you think about it. A 2-1 is running about 100, sometimes 120. So it's 48 times 100,000 a door. That's the going rate, right? How much is that? 4.8 million. Does this price make sense? What they're asking for the project. They want 9 million. How much is the project really worth? The project is really worth what? 4.8 million.
Yeah.
You see the problem?
Backwards.
Now here's what's going on, Rick. By theory, somebody would think that this is how they're going to sell it if they don't know commercial. I'm going to take this $9 million and go put $100,000 on top and say, I do commercial real estate. This is what I want for the building. I want 9.1 million. And sit on it for 4 years and wonder why it's not selling. You see the problem? You're so far wrong, it's ridiculous. And on top of that, you had the nerve to put your commission of $100,000 on top. Because we as people got to understand, if the average condo right now is costing about $100,000, an average apartment condo is costing $100,000 to buy it cash. You have to take some type of analytics to understand where you're going with this project. Because again, this $9 million is totally off. Now, what about if it's in a super high-end neighborhood where maybe condos there is maybe $250,000 a door? Give me $250,000 times 48. We're in a super high-end neighborhood where, I don't know, I'm making up an area. Let's just say Western.
12 million.
Huh?
12 million.
12 million. So if every door condo in the area is 250,000, let's say at Western or Brickell, they wanting $12 million. I mean, them wanting $9 million, knowing that it's really worth $12 million. Would you buy it? Would you invest? 100%. He's undervalued. I'm still going to do my due diligence. I want to know why is he undervalued. I'm not going to tell him. I just want to, I'm definitely doing an inspection. I want to do all my homework. I want to check this building all the way through. Is there something I'm not seeing? Because sometimes when you buy projects at a discount, you could win. But you see, what I'm trying to show you guys is you first would have to have known what is the door price. Because if you didn't know any better, you would have heard somebody say, "Oh man, there's somebody selling a whole 48 doors right now for $9 million, man. We should try to buy it." You didn't ask yourself the main question: does it make financial sense? What makes them know that it's worth $9 million? One of the things is, as a culture, we tend to believe anything we hear, anything we see, without doing our homework, our due diligence. You have to do your homework. And remember, you know the beautiful part about commercial? You realize I never said nothing about credit. You don't need credit. Your credit could be horrible. Credit is not a factor in buying a commercial building at all. It's building positive cash flowing. Do you have your 20% down? Do you have your rehab costs? Is the debt service by 1.25? Is the debt service by whatever the debt is? Let's say it's $10,000 plus a quarter, which would be $12,500. As long as those things are in play, you're on your way to buying your first commercial building. But what are we having a problem as a culture? That 20% down is not easy. We got people right now having a problem with 3.5% down of a $100,000 home, which is $3,500. So you can imagine putting down $200,000. It's not easy for many. That's why it's important when you hear people say lines like, "Oh, I'm just doing my own thing." See, that's not how the rich get richer. That's not how people with billions get more billions. That's not how millionaires become multi-millionaires. They have to work with each other. You see, when you look at Sean Puffy Combs, I don't know what he calls himself now, but every day is a new name. When you really think about it, look how much different deals he put himself into that he worked with people on. Like, people still think he owns Ciroc, which is so crazy to me. It's not owned by him, it's owned by Diageo. And he's just their marketing representative that has a great equity stake in the marketing dollars and, of course, the profit of that liquor, which is so amazing. But he markets that product as if it's his. But look what they're doing. One thing people don't see, they're working together. You don't make it in this world by working by yourself. Very important, right? Any questions on understanding 48 doors? How, if you didn't understand, you got to pay attention to what are you buying per door? Did you do your homework to see, okay, what is, of course, the rent rolls? What is, of course, other factors that play a role in this particular asset purchase? Any questions on understanding how do you buy, so far, a 48 unit? What would be things I'm looking at? Okay, because again, there's going to be fixed costs. You need to know the fixed costs, because again, sometimes apartments have what we call coin laundries. You have to know, is it owned by the apartment complex itself, or is it financed from a third party? That makes a big difference. Because sometimes that money is not going in your pocket, and they put it on the spreadsheet as if that's income in your pocket. That money's not going in your pocket. That sometimes you're just doing a service by just giving them a laundry company so they can have laundry, and you deal nothing of that, has nothing to do with you. Maybe that person may pay a percentage of your electrical bill. These are things to really understand. Can you get a copy of the contract?
You got a cap rate, what's going to do as well.
Exactly. You see, we're not thinking about these things, because we're always, as you go into an apartment, you're just going in to live into an apartment. You're not really looking at it from the inside out. What's really happening?
From a floor plan.
Exactly. Who's paying for that security guard gate? Who pays for that?
Yeah.
Is my profit I'm paying for him to be at that gate, and he just chilling there drinking soda? Oh no, he ain't chilling no more. Not if we own that building. You understand, things gonna change. Is he really securing the building? Is he worth having? Is his $58,000 salary worth having? Or is it cutting too much into my profits? Into our profits, because now if all 20 of us chip in, he's cutting into our profits. Do we really need him, or do we want him? Big difference. This is something I'm going to show you guys. This is advanced. Okay. You have 48 unit apartment, right? 48 unit apartment, same example. Okay. Hypothetically, right? Like we said, the layout was what? 2-1? Okay. So by theory, we're collecting, I'm gonna say usually 2-1, about 1,400, right? So 1,400, give me 1,400 times 48. 1,400 times 48. Let's look at how much we're collecting in passive income rate before expenses.
67,200.
67,200. $67,000 a month, passively. But of course, fixed cost is not out of there yet, okay? What about if I told you there's a way you could increase that by 3, sometimes even 4? You're like, how is that possible? You remember, what the bank wants is just what? All they care about is, can you pay the mortgage? Okay, that's, they can care less what the hell you got going on in your building. That has nothing to do with it, okay? What about if I could have took veterans, right? Remember, every layout is 2-1, okay? And that was based off 1,400 for that one unit, right? But what about if I could have took veterans, right? And the state pays per bed. This is you like this one. $900 for each veteran per month, times 4. Now I'm collecting $3,200 minus $1,400.
36, yeah.
Okay. I mean, oh, was that 3,600? I'm so sorry.
You working hard, boy. No worry.
Now minus 14, right, which gives us what? 2,200.
Yeah. Now you want 2,200 times the 48?
We just profited extra per door, $2,200 a month. The building haven't changed, has it? And what's beautiful is we're guaranteed now $900. Now it's not per room, it's per bed, and the government's paying you $900 per bed. 4 beds in 1-2-1, right? Do 3,600 times 48 units now. Remember, we was collecting 67,000 doing it the normal way. How much are we collecting now?
$172,800.
100, how much?
$172,800.
172.8 every single month is being collected. Why? Because we put veterans and we're getting paid per bed. 900 at 4 beds, which is 3,600 times 48 units. That's 100 and how much?
$105,000 difference per month.
$105,000.
Over the year, that's $1.2 million extra you earned.
Over the years is how much? An extra how much? $1.2 million. Because we're not renting per door anymore. We're renting per bed now. And that money is guaranteed.
VA benefits.
VA benefits. So while people love Section 8 on the residential side, this is our version of Section 8. Right? It's so beautiful how commercial can work. Would you believe that people are doing this? Why would I? Now, which one is better? Now, here's the difference. If I asked you which one would you take, what would you say? There's no right or wrong answer, just to let you know. There's no right or wrong answer. Would you take $105,000 a month for positive cash flow, or $67,000 a month? The $67,000 a month consists of $1,400 a month per door, 48 doors, or would you take the $105,000? What would be one question you would be concerned about?
The question I have is with the 105, do you have to make certain like amendments or changes to the building for these individuals?
Great question. He says, well, if I'm getting the 105, do I have to readjust anything in the building? AC unit is still the same. 2-1 is still the same. You may have to have had, let's say, Amazon go buy some bunk beds, right? If you want.
Any like veterans and wheelchairs?
True.
You gotta make
Could there be any adjustments?
Rehab adjustments.
Let's ask this question. Does it have to be veterans? Do they have alcoholics? Disabled? Druggies? You see where we go with it? I just chose veterans, but that's a good question. He's actually very true, because remember, in Bathroom you have to have different, you have to have the poles, the rails, the wheelchair has to be able to fit through the door. Oh yeah, he's 100% right. But one thing I would definitely ask, other than that, which is good, Very good question. Do I have to make adjustments in the unit to accommodate for who's there? Very important question, yes. But which one it has more management risk? Which one do I have to put more management into? This one.
Because of the regulation?
Exactly. What about if somebody dies or, I mean, imagine what's going on here. We're paying you to make sure they're good. we paying you to make sure they have comfortable housing. 4 of them in the room, you decided to put the AC on 61. Okay? You want to make sure, as we say, they're piping ice cold, right? But 2 of them don't mind. 2 of them, their temperatures are different. Their body doesn't like certain temperatures. You see where issues can come about. 2 have certain health issues, 2 don't. Which rooms do they go in? You see where there can be. Would it be smart to maybe have an agency across the street that services the aids of the veterans? Now you're producing another subsidized service, right?
Could you do the building, could you have it where the building code works, where you have 40% occupancy through VA?
Good question.
Residents?
What about if the building was 3 different buildings, but it's still 48 units? 16, 16, 16, right? And these 2 is normal tenants. This one here is the only one that requires. So you don't get to enjoy the whole 105. I'm just making up numbers. You might get maybe 83 instead of the 105, right? But a little bit more management risk, where you might have to hire a different worker to manage building number 3,
yeah.
right? Because of who's there. Maybe have to have a nurse come in once a week to take, to check on certain things, right? Any questions? A different perspective, right? Which is crazy, but it's happening. It's happening. This can increase your cap rate by sometimes almost 50% sometimes. And this is happening. This is a different outlook on commercial. Okay. Do we have any questions pertaining to what we spoke about today? How do you finance a commercial piece of property? Why do we want to buy a commercial piece of property? People, I'm going to say this, people that's online also, leaving your money in the bank, I'm going to tell you again and again and again, you're gaining less than 1%. You could leave it in the bank, or you could invest into yourself and invest into different asset classes, such as stocks, such as real estate. And Donovan actually gave me a stock that I didn't understand. I'm not in that lane. He talked about Beyond Meat before Beyond Meat went public. Beyond Meat opened at what price, Donovan? 40 maybe? Yeah, maybe $40 a share. Within 2 weeks, I think, if I'm 3 weeks, to start with $240. So whoever bought that stock won. But now it went down months later, went down to $75. Now it's back to like maybe $119, and it still has growth potential because it's growing. People do not want to eat meat like that anymore because by theory, meat is causing cancer. Meat has cancer in it. Meat has high cholesterol in it. So as we get more educated, you see what they're also doing too on Netflix. They're pushing out more education so you can shift your mind over there. Because as you watch these, what they eat or what the health, once you start watching these shows, it's shifting your education to making you go plant-based. And what you think these companies doing? They're ramping up on profits. They're ramping up on dollars. I'm surprised they don't have a plant-based company. Do they have one locally? No. Yeah, I never heard of that. Yeah. Not locally. I know they have the guy that owns Komodos in Miami. He has a company called Planto. In Miami, there's nothing down here like that. Imagine you could have the same great flavors, which is plant-based. Chicken wings and everything like that. That people like the taste of a chicken wing, but not a real chicken wing. You know what I mean? Give people what the taste they want, but it's just not the meat inside. People would spend the money. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a show just to teach you, give you an introduction to, of course, commercial real estate. Next month, I'm, of course, doing February 23rd. The show is based on if you have debt, school debt, which a lot of people that book me that I sit down have a lot of school debt, a lot of debt, period, car debt, don't know how to manage their money. This is very common. Have a hard time saving money. It's important that you come out to my next show, February 23rd. I do these shows every last Sunday of the month. I'm teaching you how to manage debt, how to get out of debt. One of the biggest things I will be talking about, we got to stop financing everything. We are financing cell phones, cars, alarm systems. That is going to be the introduction of the conversation. Okay? We definitely need to slow down. This is your boy Bobby from MentorMe.com. Appreciate everybody that likes, share my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Appreciate everybody that purchase or invest into my KINDLE book. Appreciate everybody that came out today. May God bless. One God.
Appreciate you, bud.
Appreciate it. Always.